rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending, which is brought to you by Tim Daly Ford, part of the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. As we mentioned a moment ago, Shep, Pete Thamel of ESPN, reporting that Big 12 met with Gonzaga about potentially joining the league. Do you like the idea, potentially, of Gonzaga in the Big 12?
I have very mixed feelings on this. On the surface, well, sure, you bring in a basketball program like Gonzaga. Look, it's already the best basketball conference in the country. So you bring in a team like Gonzaga, well, sure, you want to bring them in. Then you start to think about it a little bit more. You start peeling the layers back. All of conference expansion is based off of what sport? It's football, right? Last time I checked, Gonzaga does not have a football team. And all of the reports that I have seen have said this is not like a basketball-only thing like we see a lot of times with football only wanting to join. If they're going to make a move, it sure looks like they're wanting all sports to go to whatever conference they jump to. My question is, with the basketball side of things already being set up at the top of the pecking order, with Gonzaga coming in, what are they actually bringing? They're bringing in another fantastic basketball program, a top-tier national championship contender. You already have a couple of those in the Big 12 already. If you're not bringing football, from a financial standpoint, what are you bringing to the table? Because at that point, in my opinion, all you're doing is siphoning off money. Now, I don't know what they would work out if you don't have a football team. I don't know how you could be a full share member. I mean, all this stuff.
How do you get football TV revenue?
That's what I mean. So, like, right now, like, I like the idea of it. It sounds good because we know that the competition in basketball will be fantastic. But I don't know if just bringing basketball in is bringing enough in from a financial standpoint that they add anything. I think at that point, they're just taking away from the rest of the group.
It's NCAA tournament units is the financial add that Gonzaga gives, and perhaps a men's basketball contract, which I'm still trying to understand if that was football only in 2025, the TV deal that we heard, or does that include men's basketball as well? Heard some men's basketball stuff in there, but didn't hear any numbers associated with that, or if it's combined. So I probably need some clarification there. It feels like we both do. Perhaps there's a thing where it's like, well, this is football money, this is basketball money, then it would be okay.
Yes.
Because what we learned from a report from Sports Business Journal is that there's a pro rata clause that only P5 schools would expand that same number of TV money per school. But it's only the ESPN part of that. Fox did not agree to that. And obviously Gonzaga is not a P5. And then John Canzano of the Oregonian, paper I had growing up, delivered right to my house back in the day when you had a newspaper, says the Big 12's pro-rata clause, is 63% of the deal. So about 20 mil from ESPN. Fox did not agree to that, like I mentioned. So maybe there's some clause there where it's you don't get the football money, you get the basketball money, which is significantly smaller, and it's beneficial for Gonzaga that way. So that's the money part of it. The competition part of it. How tough is tougher?
It's already extremely tough.
Like, because BYU goes into that league next year, and honestly, my first thought is like, okay, can BYU somehow go 6-12, 7-11? There were teams that made the NCAA tournament at 7-11 in league last year from the Big 12. Like, can BYU pull that off? It's so hard. And you go, well, sure they can. Well, tell me the wins right now. What are they? Where are they winning? Because it's going to be so difficult. And teams coming to the Merit Center, it will be hard for them as well. But you already have two Gonzagas in the league in Kansas and Baylor. Not to mention Texas Tech, who's been to a couple Final Fours, I believe. Houston's a top 10 team. UCF's getting way better. West Virginia is always a challenger. There is not a bad team. Like in football, we said, oh, Kansas stinks. Then this year, they got top 50, top 60. Like they're at least in the upper half of college football this year. Game Day went there when they were 4-0. It was crazy. So do I like the idea of Gonzaga in the Big 12? I'm not exactly sure because I think it's already going to be too tough. So you're adding, like if we said, hey, Duke's going to the Big 12, do you like it? We'd probably be like, no, too tough. Or, yeah, going to Cameron would be great. We've kind of had that with Gonzaga already. Are we good? Are they the travel partner now in basketball because they're the other westernmost team? The Big 12 wants a Pacific time zone team, by the way. They want all 4 time zones. They don't have that time zone yet. They're looking for that team. Now, in football, they'd love to have it. I bet they'd love the 4 corners if the Pac-12 dissolves. But Gonzaga adding to the league certainly is interesting for Gonzaga because I think that would be beneficial financially. That's basically what Gonzaga wants, by the way. They just want to be included at the table to be big time. I think they're just tired of just knocking everybody around in the WCC, getting a certain amount of money, which they negotiated more of the units from the NCAA tournament a couple years ago when they threatened to possibly go to the Mountain West. So they've done this before. This is not new. But if you're great at something, don't do it for free. The Joker said that in The Dark Knight. They're not doing it for free, but they want more money. They want more access. They want more big-time opportunities against big teams. They go and play a tough schedule. I guess I'm not anti-Gonzaga to the Big 12, but I guess I'm not super pro because I feel like it's going to be hard enough.
Yes, yeah. It's like if you have two Lamborghinis. If you get three, which we do. I bring that up because it's our reality.
Clearly, we got.
But I mean, if you have two already, if you get three, does it really change much? You're still pretty well off either way.
It depends if your buddy has four.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So if you're going with that.
Like if you're Gonzaga and you look around, you go, well, why are we making like beans here when we could be making fat stacks in a big league?
Again, the financial part of it, that's what this boils down to me. And if, like you were, talking about, if it's a situation where they don't get anything of the football money, but I did read that somebody in the industry, because this was something that was brought up when these negotiations, which we now know are done for the TV rights, the new TV rights starting in 2025, this was something that was maybe not outright brought up, but sort of referenced, like, hey, this is something that could be a possibility. Somebody in that world said, well, even if Gonzaga joins, it's not going to change the game from a financial standpoint. So if they're not going to add a significant value and all they're going to do is take it away, and again, we don't know what that would be. If they're going to take a significant chunk, then I don't like it. If they're going to focus only on getting a certain piece of the basketball and it's not something that you're really going to feel from a financial standpoint, then I'm okay with it. My other question is, like, if you're not getting that entire money of Gonzaga, if you're them, I don't know how the other sports in their athletic department can afford to do all of the travel that they would need to do, whether it's baseball or soccer.
Now you're going to Morgantown.
Now you're doing those.
You've just been West Coast and BYU.
Yes. I mean, if it comes down to this, would you rather have Gonzaga in the Big 12 or San Diego State?
Gonzaga.
Because then at that point San Diego State does take a chunk.
Well,
because they're not P5.
Well, neither are P5. You're right. And San Diego State, more wins in Viejas, which is what BYU does. Hopefully next Friday as well.
Because they're adding basketball.
Good question. Good question. They would add a quality basketball team as well, not the level of Gonzaga, but they would add other programs. There's a traditional rivalry there with San Diego State over time, although we don't call it a rivalry, I guess. So, yeah, good question, man. Depends what you want. Every decision in life that you make is based on what you want out of that experience. What do we want out of potentially Big 12, Gonzaga in the Big 12? I guess if they don't take away value, I'm not inclined to say absolutely not.
Yeah, no, that's my whole thing.
They don't add money.
Yes.
And that's the thing. But maybe, and remember, Brett Yormark just became the commish, so he's kind of in the acquisition business right now. And maybe it's not at financial as much as it is just street cred. Like, yep, and we got Gonzaga. Like the biggest, arguably the top 3 basketball program in the country right now. Like if you can just add Duke, would you do it?
Of course.
I think they would.
Yes.
That's the case with Gonzaga, is it not? Like maybe it's a why not situation as opposed to breaking it. I don't know. Brett Yormark, and also this doesn't mean Gonzaga's going to the league. They just talked.
Well, and the Pac-12 is talking to them as well. They're showing some interest, which is a little odd because I don't know. Last time I checked, they're also a religious school.
Right.
And I don't know what's their research situation.
Well played. Well played.
I mean, you know what I mean?
The academics.
Yeah. Look, they are talking with other conferences, but this just came out of nowhere yesterday, out of the blue. There was nothing about this, and all of a sudden they're in talks with the Big 12.
It makes sense because they were in town essentially.
Right.
They were in Texas playing. Why not at least chat? And again, we don't know the severity or whatnot of this conversation, whether it's going to lead to something at all. But they chatted.
Look, this is what it boils down to me. If BYU doesn't lose money in the deal, fine. If they do, they don't like it.
Yeah,
it boils down to that.
I don't think any of the commissioner fulfills the needs of the presidents and chancellors of the league. He is the head, mouthpiece of that, the head of the league. So it's
Delavadova, if you will.
No, the commish. He's the commish. But if that isn't met, if they don't want that, no, we're going to lose money. No, they're not going to do it. It's got to be we don't lose money, but we add them. Our football money stays ours,
right.
Probably.
All right, let's get to
They
topic.
suddenly add football.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what?
Let's get to topic number 2. We will stay with basketball, however. Last night, pretty impressive exhibition victory for the BYU Cougars over Ottawa of Surprise, Arizona. What'd you learn about this BYU team last night?
I don't want to overreact because it's an exhibition game and it's the first one, but I'll tell you some of the things I liked. Rotation indication. Spencer Johnson has not started a game at BYU in his 2 years. 61 games played, no starts. He is starting on Monday. 16 points, 6 steals. He was fantastic. And Mark Pope had this to say about his performance.
I'm super proud of him. He was our dim leader by far tonight, and he was kind of a steadying force. And he was, you know, even with their thrust, I thought I did a great job about racing the ball down the floor. I thought he still was able to stay on his toes and kind of be aggressive. It was a beautiful performance by him tonight.
Yes, it was. DIM is defensive impact metric. That's what they look at defensively. Yeah, BYU did a great job of turning Ottawa over, 27 takeaways for 40 points. I mean, that was monster. BYU also turned it over 19 times itself and fouled 26 times in the game. Certainly need to reel that in. But it was a nice performance. I love the threes, 15 to 31. A lot of different guys making those. Plus 16 on the glass, but NAIA school, I'm not going to read into that too much. There was a lot of good, man. And the starting lineup, we got a taste. I felt confident about Rudy Williams, Gideon George, and Foose being in the starting 5. Then we saw Jackson Robinson and then Spencer Johnson. I anticipate that will be the same lineup that we see on Monday night.
The things that really stood out to me, number 1 was the three-point shooting. And yes, exhibition, yes, it was against an NAIA school. But what I liked, not just the fact that they were hitting as many as they were with the 15. I liked that for the most part, they weren't forced. They all came within the flow of the offense. And nobody hesitated. As soon as they got the ball in rhythm, they shot. And it felt like 80, 90% of them came in the corners. And BYU was feeling it last night. So I loved the three-point shot coming within the flow of the offense. The other thing I liked, and you talked about the starting lineup, in that starting lineup, the tallest player, and I realize, because Mark Durant and I on the broadcast last night kind of got into this, it's a lot about the wingspan, not necessarily your height.
Yes.
But the tallest player in that starting lineup was Jackson Robinson at 6'7". So you can play a little bit small, and I thought that worked, certainly against the opponent that BYU had last night. But you have Noah Waterman at 6'11", and you have a Tiki on the bench that can give you some height if you need to go to a taller player, longer wingspan. I liked what we saw from the freshmen. I thought all the freshmen, Dallin Hall, who's going to join us in our next segment, was extremely impressed with what we saw from him, 10 points in his exhibition debut. All in all, I thought it was a really good way for BYU to play a game right before you go into the regular season.
It was great. It was great because we didn't know what to expect from some of these guys. And it's one game, and it's NAIA, and it's exhibition. So, yeah, there were some positive signs. A few things I'd like to see better is don't turn it over as much, don't foul as much.
Yep.
Noah Waterman, 1 of 3, 2 points. Like to see a little more offensively from him, but he did some nice things with 7 rebounds as well. Gideon George, 8 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. That's the kind of game we expect from Gideon. And there's a lot of guys on this team, and you're trying to figure out the rotation, but you got a good indication of the starting lineup. And then the wingspans are crazy. Like, Foose is 6'5.5", by the way. Like, he is Charles Barkley, minus the 3 right now. So but his wingspan's 7'2", just like crazy stuff.